So I grew up in Birmingham, but I grew up in quite a rough area of Birmingham called Borsett Heath, which was a red light district. And when I was growing up, I didn't know anyone who went to university or went to college or indeed did their A-levels at school. When I left school at the age of 16, left school on a Monday, and on the Tuesday worked in the local factory as a sheet metal worker.
I was into the Army Cadets in quite a serious way. Woke up at 17 and decided I didn't actually like being told what to do, and that was probably going to be a problem.
I was brought up in the 60s on a fairly rough South London council estate. I remember sometimes asking Mum why she wasn't having anything to eat for supper. And she would say she wasn't hungry, but it's only when you get older you know the real reason why.
I come from a family which had gone to university. Me going to university again was something that was just going to happen. I wanted to be a barrister, you see, so I thought the way to become a barrister, I have to go to either Oxford or Cambridge. And unfortunately, my GCSE year was the year that I decided to rebel, so I didn't get those A stars that I'd been predicted. And I was absolutely gutted. And I applied to Durham and Warwick, and I just got rejected for all of those as well. Those universities' loss and my gain.
I did my law degree up in Leeds in 2011, and I did a 4-year part-time degree because they didn't have enough places on the full-time degree. But that actually worked really well because it allowed me to do a lot of extracurricular things like mooting and pupillage.
So I did Army Cadets. I was an ambassador for Buckinghamshire. Sounds more exciting than it actually was. No shade to the Shire, fabulous place. I did athletics, I did drama, I did a bit of everything.
I left school at 15 and a half and had a series of interesting jobs. One was a chicken catcher in a farm. That always makes people laugh.
I had no prospect of going back to school, no prospect of doing any exams or indeed any A-levels, because I saw my role as working in the local factory. It then all changed for me when I was 17, and my mum got me onto a course called Training for Life. And what Training for Life did, it said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to work in the hospital. And they said, okay, well, we'll get you a job in a hospital. So they got me a job as a porter. And then from there, I became an orderly in A&E, and then I became an orderly in the operating theatre. I then trained in the operating theatre to be a surgeon's assistant. But the last day I worked in the operating theatre was a day before I started pupillage.
For the barrister-focused things, I did mooting, love a good moot. I did debating, I did client interviewing, I also worked part-time. I was on a committee of the African Caribbean Society, but also worked with other universities in London, and court-martialing as well. Thanks to the Inn, they happen to have some really good experiences on offer, so I took them up. I always said yes, always say yes.
I'd always wanted to be a barrister because I'd always bunked off school to watch a programme called Crown Court, which was on every lunchtime. And if you ever want to see what the Crown Courts are like, that's the closest you'll get to reality.
Looked around, thought what was I interested in, what subjects, and thought, I know, I'll be a solicitor. And I said this to someone, knowing one person whose mum was a solicitor, but other than that, no idea. It just seemed interesting to me. And they said, oh, you don't want to be a solicitor, you want to be a barrister. And I said, what's one of those? And they said, I don't really know, but it's better. Now, that's not actually true. They're completely different jobs. But me being as competitive as I am, I thought, right, well, I'll do that then.
I wasn't ever really sure what I wanted to do. I liked writing. I was always good in that sense, the reading, the writing, the creative writing and the literature. And I enjoyed the drama courses that we did and was in some school plays and things, but I never thought that would translate to being a barrister.
When I was 14, I did a mock trial in my local magistrates court, and I thought it was so cool seeing the cross-examination, and we had a few barristers come down. I thought it was something that I wanted to do. And then I set up my educational studies in that vein.
I got fired in 1990 and decided that I'd been wrongly fired and sued my employer for unfair dismissal. Did it myself because no lawyers would help me, and I won. So I thought, this isn't as difficult as it looks. And I managed to get into university as what they used to call a mature student and studied for a law degree. I was 32 when I went to university and graduated at 37.
My auntie in Australia was a lawyer and I went to court with her. I saw the court work and thought that it was probably a job I could do just as well as anybody else, as long as I knew the law and I could be a good advocate, and it seemed a good career choice.
I went to night school down the road here in Camden at the Working Man's College, did some A-levels. I went up the road here to what is now Westminster University, did my law degree, and was called to the bar, as I say, in 1997.
I was absolutely committed to coming to the bar from 14 all the way through, and everything I did, all the extracurriculars that I did were focused on trying to come to the bar of England and Wales and beyond.
I always thought if I was going to be a lawyer that I would be a barrister. I didn't want to be sitting behind the desks doing paperwork. I wanted to be at the action end of things.
One of the greatest things that happened in my career at university was being brought by the Bar Society to an education day at Lincoln's Inn. Because if it hadn't been for that, I don't know if I would have progressed to the bar. I don't know if I'd have chosen Lincoln's Inn, but I came here with my uni and was made to feel so incredibly welcome that I did think, okay, yeah, maybe I could do this.
I knew I had to join an Inn of Court to be a barrister, so I applied to all 4 inns on the basis that the one which gave most money in scholarships would be the one that got my vote, which is why I'm now at Lincoln's Inn. They take on students who can't or don't know how to navigate their way through the process, and they make sure in the right place at the right time, and they're applying for the right scholarships, and that's my route to the bar.
What I actually wanted to do when I was back at uni, back at Reading, was I wanted to go into Chancery. And it's partly why I chose this in, and also because of the scholarships and the interview process for the scholarships I thought would be best suited for me.
My university, one of the law tutors, had created a little project, which was that you're to take a barrister for lunch. And I pitched up at this barrister's chambers, and with my £15 in my pocket, he said, "Right, you're taking me for lunch." And I said, "Yes." He said, "I'm going to take you to Lincoln's Inn for lunch." And he took me here, and that was the first time I'd met a barrister, and it was the first time I'd been to Lincoln's Inn. They can't get rid of me, I still live here.
I did a traditional pupillage in a common law commercial set of chambers on a self-employed basis, and unfortunately none of the pupils were taken on in that set of chambers. So I spent a lot of time crying in the middle of Middle Temple, gnashing my teeth, tearing my hair. It was very, very dramatic. I can be very dramatic. Another barrister actually was passing by and said, you are actually a fully qualified barrister now. You've passed all the tests, so let's go. I went to work for the Bank of England as an employed barrister, and that was the start of my journey.
When I started practicing in crime, as I did in those days, work came in from unexpected sources until somebody explained to me that, well, you're 40 years old, and so you get work because people think you've been at it for a while, which is a sort of cheat, really, but I never complained.
I did a common law pupillage, so that was a bit of everything. But my civil and family practices took off more quickly, and it sort of became self-fulfilling then, in the sense that those solicitors were asking for me more, so my diary filled up with civil and family, and then there was no space for criminal cases.
I got on a placement to the United States to work on the death penalty. And so when I came back, it was crime for me. It was criminal defence for me. It was never going to be prosecution.
I had to make decisions in terms of what I could take on. And then I ended up sort of just doing family law when it came to court work. I also started doing a master's as well, so I didn't really have time to do like 15 million different areas of law and learning law and doing inquiries, so I had to sort of reduce it a bit.
It's massively varied. That's one of the reasons I really enjoy it. I represent large employers such as John Lewis, big NHS trusts, multinational companies, in tribunal, but then I can represent a doctor's receptionist from a GP surgery. And it's a very personal area of law.
Please, employed barristers, self-employed barristers, in between barristers, make sure you have insurance and do pro bono. It's amazing.
I love my job. It's the best job in the whole world. It's fantastic. And it's a privilege each and every day to go and represent the people I represent. But I would say 40% of my job is pro bono, doing out the stuff outside of going to court. And that's the better part of my job.
I am a black woman and I'm a dark-skinned black woman. You don't see people like me, especially not doing sort of the practice area that I do, which is financial services. I'm a rare beast, a unicorn, but I revel in it and I celebrate every aspect of who I am. And I wish if I could have shaken my younger self, I wish I just applied for things. I wish I didn't self-select. So my sort of strongest piece of advice is please don't discount yourself. Please don't self-select. You are good enough to be at the Bar of England and Wales. Have faith in your own ability and do not let other people define your potential. Only you know that.
In those days, many, many years ago now, the bar seemed to be sort of shrouded in this mist of superiority and self-importance. And when you go to university and then you start approaching the Inns of Courts, actually it turned out to be nothing like that.
Now there's a lot more social mobility. People are moving up into the different practice areas, and because of the way that people are working, some of it's remote working, I think it is more accessible, and it means that there's a much wider section of society that feel that they can join the bar.
I mean, the thing is about those chancery places is that if you just look at the tenants' profiles and you look at some of the things that they've done in terms of, like, a lot of them went to Oxford or Cambridge and then they went and did the BCL, and then some of them went to Harvard for the sake of it to do an LM, and some of them had PhDs, and it was just like, and at the time it was just me and my 2-1 from Reading. Like, there was no way.
You ran into microaggressions, I think they're referred to these days. And quite a lot of them from the white Anglo-Saxon fat middle-class males who didn't like where you came from, didn't like what you sounded like, and didn't like the fact that you were actually quite good at what you did despite all of that.
It creates an empathy in my mind if you come from that normal background and you come into this profession, which does absolutely have normal people in it, and the judges are normal, but you get to meet them and realise that it really broadens your horizon. And I think for me, that's one of the things I bring to my work that I think clients find really useful.
It is a hard career and it's difficult whatever background you come from. Maybe less so in some ways if you've had the connections in the past, but equally these days, certainly with circuit chambers, it's counting for less and less who your family are or where you did your degree. Everybody is on an even footing, and therefore there is more diversity and actually more encouragement for people to come to the bar, not from the old families and old money, as it were. It's more on merit. So it's a highly competitive career. It's never not going to be.
The one good thing about the criminal bar is that we now have certainly far more women. I would say 50% of the criminal bar is female, certainly on recruits for the last 10 years. So I often go into court now and I'll have a female judge, a female prosecutor, and be co-defending with women, which is fantastic.
One thing that I like, though, is that the Chancery Bar is actively trying to change. I've seen it, and individuals have reached out to me as well from different chambers. I'm going to speak to one this month about race. So they are trying to make a change. They're acutely aware of the issues. They're hot on it.
You're not going to be written off just because you didn't go to Oxford and your face doesn't fit. I think that is getting better all the time.
I enjoy life at the bar. It's a fantastic career, because you get to use your brain, you get to meet everybody. The types of people that I've met, the good, the bad, the ugly, the horrible, the decent, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
You're going to have long days, you're going to be absolutely shattered, but if you really feel that's the career that you want, then you push for it and it's worth it. And I think that's regardless of your position in society, whether you have a disability, whether you went to a state school or a private school, it is more attainable now, but you've just got to be prepared to put the work in.
There are so many different ways of going about this career, even coming to it as a second, third, fourth career. But know the things like, when do the bar school applications open? What way do I want to do them with the new structure of the course? And when do I need to apply for a scholarship? Because the money is there. It's so rewarding. Just inform yourself. And there are so many opportunities to do that.
The most exciting part of the job is when the jury come back. You work really hard preparing your trial. You go in there, you cross-examine the eyewitnesses, you score some great points, you call your defendant and he's a nightmare and he's completely destroyed the whole case that you've been working on, and you do this amazing closing speech, and then the judge sums up the case and sends the jury out, and then you wait in the robing room for that tannoy that says the jury are coming back. You come back in, the jury file in, the clerk stands up, the foreperson stands up, and they say, is he guilty or not guilty? That right then is the most exciting part. It's the scariest part of the job, but it's also the most exhilarating part of the job.
There are always going to be obstacles and hurdles to get where you want to go. Those obstacles and hurdles these days are nothing like they were. If you attack those head on and take the help that's available for you when you come to problems and issues and succeed, then it's worth every minute of it.
So go forth and conquer the Bar of England and Wales, please.